Hey, Quicksters, welcome. I'm your host, Susie, along with James. How are you?
Good. I'm really good. It's
Good.
starting to be winter. One of my favorite seasons. It's my favorite wardrobe season.
I'll give you
Yeah.
that. I really
Yeah.
love the fall. So, but
Yeah. Well, you're in autumn. That's why.
yes. So I met with my friend Stacy yesterday, and we were having coffee, and we just chatting. I did just a catch up thing, but she said, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" She'd recently gotten let go, and
Mm.
she's now in the throes. She hasn't been in interview mode for now, like, literally years, because 'cause she's
Oh,
been
that's
at the
so hard.
company, yeah, that for a long time, and she's like, "I don't even know how to do it. What questions are they gonna ask?" But it was really interesting because I think that there was a missing component about how do you get yourself ready, but what about that person on the other side? How do you make that best impression? It's not
Sure.
necessarily just the answer that they're looking for, but there's more to it. So it was a really interesting discussion because she just is so insecure and so
Yes.
like focused on it's almost like she has a finite mindset because she's so
Sure.
worried about finding a job that she can't get out of her own way.
Well, it's hard when you haven't done this for a while.
Yeah.
Or if you just don't, we always joke that you don't want to be good at interviewing, right? Like you don't want to be
Right.
good at having a wedding, but you also, you do as a human basically sell yourself, if you will, and promote yourself. And that's what an interview is. And if you don't do a lot of that in your role and Stacy, was that her name? She hasn't had the need to do that. And maybe she was in a comfortable role where her value is known because of her position. And so to have to go back and do that again, it's really hard.
And especially at her level, like, she doesn't
Yes.
feel like she should have to do that, but it's so
Oh, yeah, the
important. And
role.
I said
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you and then
Mhm.
call her and give her some tips on what she needs
Yeah.
to do because it's tomorrow.
Oh
So,
gosh. Yeah. We should do that. And it's funny. Coincidentally, I read a really great Harvard Business Review article about that very thing about, that essentially how do you ensure that you make an impression during an interview and the four real things that you should do as a candidate, thinking about that process and thinking about how you can, basically back to your point, you want to answer the questions, but there's some other items that you want to really think
mhm.
about before the interview to make sure that you do the best you can.
You know what scares me is there's 4, and
Oh,
that's
I
not our
know.
formula, so I
Well,
don't know what you're
there's
gonna do.
4. I could probably come up with 9, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, there's just so many different ways to do this well, and I think it's really key that people, give it some thought.
What you're saying is there's the questions and there's the interview, but there's also the underlining human to human connection.
Yes, and I think let me get to the first one, which is how
Okay.
do you do that? How do you create that human to human connection? We talk about it all the time on the show. You have to be your authentic self.
Yep.
Right? So don't go into that interview trying to be maybe an extrovert or talking too much, or just don't, if you think I need to be a very, math oriented person for this interview and try to, talk about math a lot, A, you probably shouldn't get that job. It would be horrible. But B, you want to be genuine to yourself. So when you are authentic, when you can be comfortable, you are going to be so much better, and which I think here's the theme to our entire conversation, you will be able to make a better connection with that person
Mhm.
because you are yourself. It's very easy to see when somebody is not being who they are. Sometimes it comes off as nerves, but generally speaking, over a good hour interview, it's going to become self-evident that you're not, trying to be your genuine self. And I think that's not great.
I think what happens when you're not yourself is you pick different words that you normally do and you don't feel
Mm,
comfortable. Even though to your point, I mean, research does show this too, is it's building that trust. And when you don't feel sure-footed
hmm
in where
hmm
you
hmm
are, the other
hmm
person's gonna sense that and you're
Totally
not gonna
agree.
be building this. They're gonna think you're inauthentic, you're not being honest to me.
Well, I love your example was really a good one. Simply just using words that you don't usually use. It's obvious sometimes, and I think you should be thoughtful. Thoughtful. Again, a lot of this is about being thoughtful, but be your genuine and authentic style.
All right, what's the second one?
The next one really is interestingly about body language. I think that being kind of builds on the second one, your genuine self. you want to be thoughtful about your body language. You want to understand your tendencies. If now, obviously, you're trying to create a connection. And if your tendency, your genuine self, is not to look somebody in the eye, you may need to work on that. The connection is important. Eye contact. I know people who will talk with their hands so much that they have hit other people while speaking. And you need to be thinking about how do you use your hands, facial expressions, be yourself, but also be thoughtful about the way that you manage your body in that conversation.
It actually influence research shows that showing your hands
Hmm.
builds trust. And
Yep.
it's not like you want to be fictitious if you're not a person that uses your hands to talk. Like you don't want to
Stanley,
look, oh, yeah,
that's not a
here,
mime.
they're
That's
right here. Like you're showing the cops. My hands are right.
right. It's all
Keep
good.
your hands so you can see them. I'm good. But doing that, and another one, if you're not comfortable looking somebody in the eye, look at the bridge of their nose. If
Mm.
if if that makes you uncomfortable, and if they don't know where, like
You're
they just,
looking,
as
you
long
can't
as you're
tell.
like right there,
Yeah,
but if that gets in your way, that you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm looking right at their eye," because sometimes that can be overwhelming.
sure.
Just focus on, and you know what that can
Hmm.
do? It can make you really present in the moment so that you're
Oh,
not
yeah.
distracted about with the thoughts in your head.
Exactly right. That's a great one. Yeah, again, making sure that you're aware of your body language. Interviewer will pick up on that. Be thoughtful in the way that you do it.
You
It's a
didn't
good one.
know I was gonna add so much value to all your tips. You're just
You,
unexpected by
you always add value. Are you kidding me? You guys don't see the work that goes into this meeting. It's all about Susie filling my brain with stuff. But the third one, I think, is this is the thing that I do the most actually when I have an interview. And it's really about making sure that I'm feeling comfortable in that interview. And so it's about being strategic and doing the pre-work. Right. And so that means
yes.
researching the interviewer, making sure you understand what the conversation will be an active listener, act thoughtfully, answer the questions well. And so these are strategic things you're doing. So it is about the way that you behave. And I think you want to go into the meeting knowing that you need to do this. I think that oftentimes it's easy to assume you just need to show up, but the interviews that really matter and the interviews that you do a really good job at are the ones that you prep for.
Could agree more. And, a fundamental principle of negotiation is prepare. And what that does is it allows you to be even more mindful in the moment because you have a plan and you know a little bit about the environment, the person, the company. It gives you questions you can ask. It really helps make sure that you're there. And then that translates to the other person that you care, that you want to be here, that you are present. I mean, they're really looking for somebody that is going to not only be easy to work with, but who is connected and who does that well.
One of the great analogies or great related stories to this is when I see people who publicly speak that I think do a great job, the people who just kind of roll up and get in front of an
Yeah.
audience and crush it, I would almost argue that 95% of the people that crush it have practiced an inordinate
Yes.
number of times. Practice makes perfect. And I know that's a trite
Absolutely.
phrase, but when it comes to this kind of thing, it matters. Public speaking, even that small amount of effort and the people who look like they make it so simple and easy, it's because they practiced. So
Yeah.
preparation for an interview matters.
Like,
I like to have notes. I like to practice my pitch, and just those things give you the level of confidence that help you create the connection.
I also like to say it out loud. And it's really interesting because
So important.
when Stacy and I were talking about this, she was like, "You know what? I'm like, I should know how to interview. I have all this experience as an executive."
Mhm.
But it's like she still needs to go back to the basics
Yeah.
and just really make sure she's showing up well.
Yep.
And it's so like you get to a certain point, you're like, I don't need to read that 101 on interviewing, but it is so important and
Yep.
practice, say it
Yep.
out loud, do it with somebody else.
Mhm.
Make
Mhm.
sure that how you're selling yourself, how you're pitching yourself, how you're framing your value
Yep.
is really, really ready.
I think that's so important. And I think doing that work, just helps you make that connection that much better.
Absolutely. So what's the 4?
Bonus four, I think, is the wild card in all this is you kind of need to, if you're going to be present and you are going to be your genuine self and you're going to be aware of your body language and try to make that connection, you also have to be ready for chaos, right? So a good
Nice.
interview, be
Yes.
ready for the cat jumping in
Yes.
front of your monitor, be ready for the internet to fail. just have a plan which you can revert to. Honestly, I find it very interesting when I'm interviewing a candidate and things go south to see how they behave, right? Because like that's a really interesting part of the job. And frankly, if you can't handle the fact that your camera isn't working in a very casual and very simple way, then it probably doesn't bode well for you in other situations. So just think through the fact that certain things may go wrong and just be prepared for that, because then you can respond in a really professional way. And again, make that comic connection. There's a great meme out there about, I think a guy, they're doing a video conference and one guy stands up and accidentally shows that he's wearing shorts and he
Yeah.
kind of panics. And the other guy stands up and shows that he's wearing shorts. And so
Yeah.
then
I love that.
I guarantee that guy got that job. Creating that connection is key, and being ready for chaos is a good way to help you prepare for that.
I'll say one really important thing to always consider is, what if you get there, they go, I only have 15 minutes? Or like, what if they have to leave or they get distracted? What could
Hmm.
happen on the other side,
Hmm.
and how are you going to handle that? So that
Boy,
you've kind of rehearsed what you're going to do in that situation. And it's so good. All right. So what are the tips?
first one is always know your style and be your genuine self, right? Adapt accordingly, but make sure that you are yourself so you're more
Yep.
comfortable and you're more present. Second, leverage your natural body language. Actually, know it. And one thing that I'll mention is like, I talk with my hands, but in a video, I actually bring my hands up because otherwise they're down here and you don't see them.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a weird thing, but I'm adjusting and knowing my
Yeah.
body language and using that to create a connection. And then think about the things that you need to do to make the connection even deeper. Prep for the meeting, make eye contact, asking thoughtful questions, create that strategically create that connection. And then finally, of course, always go and do that and expecting the unexpected so
Yep.
you can be the most effective you can. The hour interview that turns into 15 minutes, you want to still crush it.
Hang on. I've got to call Stacy right now.
I
I'm
love
going to
it.
get to her. Well, thanks. This was really helpful. Stacy, thanks you too.
Perfect.